Welcome to BACKtalk, the premier podcast from Successful Black Parenting Magazine, featuring in depth conversations and expert insights on crucial topics for Black families. We are ranked one of the top 4 Black family podcasts on FeedSpot. I'm your host, Janice Robinson-Celeste. A Florida study found that 35% of Black children were given names used exclusively by Black families, and Black girls were more likely to receive these unique names. But what happens when the world tells a child their name is too different, too hard to say, or not worth remembering? Well, today on Back Talk, we're joined by best-selling author and professional troublemaker Luvvie Ajayi Jones to discuss her new children's book, Little Troublemaker Defends Her Name, and how we can raise kids who take pride in their names, their stories, and their whole selves. Stay tuned. I'll be right back.
This is BACKtalk by Successful Black Parenting Magazine, the most listened to podcast for parents by parents.
Today, on our special edition of BACKtalk, I'm speaking with Luvvie Ajayi Jones, and I want to welcome her to the show. So welcome to the show, Luvvie. It's good to have you here. I want you to say your name, so everybody knows exactly how to say your name.
Yeah, no, it's Luvvie Ajayi Jones, just
It's
like
perfect.
it's spelled.
It's a beautiful name. It is an absolutely beautiful name. And that's what we're talking about today. And guess what? I wrote a book about names. So, there you go. So there you go. And the importance of names. So let's start with introductions for those who don't know you yet. Tell them who you are and what you have done, because it's very impressive.
Yes, so I am somebody who gives people the courage, the tools, and the words to take bold action, whether it is through my best-selling books, my podcasts, my social media, my book academy, however the vehicle is, I ultimately exist because I want people to move different in a way that will leave the room better than they found it, therefore the world. So yeah, I'm a speaker, I'm an author, I'm a host, I am a book coach, I am an entrepreneur, child of God, all of those things. And I'm somebody who's simply trying to live in purpose. So yeah, my books are a huge part of that though.
Well, it looks like you're doing a great job living in your purpose, because I see all of your success. Now, you call yourself a professional troublemaker. Okay. Where did that title come from? Because I had people call me a troublemaker. I didn't give myself that name, but you call yourself a professional troublemaker. What does that mean to you today?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like somebody called me that one day and I was like, that makes perfect sense. That's exactly who I am. And so my second book is called Professional Troublemaker because it's really about the idea that for you to be a troublemaker in an unjust world, it means you're probably doing something to be a part of the fix. And that's ultimately what it means. It means I'm a disruptor. I'm an agitator for good. I want, I want to interrupt something that is happening that I might not like or that might not feel right or kind. And even in the moments when it is scary, I still move forward anyway, knowing that what must be done is more important than the fear. So, yeah, that's what it means to be a professional troublemaker. And that's why I think a lot of us are troublemakers. And we sometimes will hear that word and be like, no, I'm not. No, you should be. Why shouldn't you be a troublemaker when the status quo doesn't work for us most of the time? Why shouldn't we be disruptors for good when the world is not set up for us to win? So for me, it's a badge of honor.
Yes, making good trouble. That's right. That's what we do.
Yes,
We
the
have,
late, great John Lewis.
yes, absolutely. And we have an icebreaker that we do before we dive into the topic. And it's basically tell us one thing that most people don't know about you.
I am an introvert. People
Uh-oh.
assume that I'm an extrovert because of my job, ultimately, because I show up in public, because I am a troublemaker. But at my core, I'm an introvert. I just have an extrovert's job.
Yes, I can relate to that. So that's interesting. Thank you for sharing that with us. Now, your new book, Little Troublemaker Defends Her Name, is so personal. Here it is right here. It's a beautiful book.
Yeah.
What inspired you to write this story for children now?
Oh my gosh. This book might be my favorite book that I've written so far because it is from a deeply personal place. I was born and raised in Nigeria, and I came to the US when I was 9 years old. And that was the first time I'd ever been different. The first time I'd ever sounded weird or had my name be different. So it was interesting to go into the classroom and having to introduce myself and immediately knowing that my name was not safe in the room, that my name would not be pronounced correctly, that I might get made fun of. And so I wanted to write this book to tell kids early enough that your name is worth defending, no matter what your name is. You know, so many of us grew up without ever seeing our names on keychains or mugs. Well, at Six Flags, and you go into the souvenir shop, and other kids are like pulling license plates with their names on it, and you never found one for yourself. So I wanted to write this book dedicated to all of us whose names might be different, who might have been othered because of it, and who might have been made to feel like their names are a burden. And a lot of us, honestly, I feel like I even wrote this book for grown-up me.
Good.
Because a lifetime of having to correct people about my name, a lifetime of having to feel like people would reduce my name because they just felt like it was too hard. I kind of wrote this book for adult me as like a form of apology to what she should have gotten even way back then.
Now that is deep. Now, so there's a story in here about little Troublemaker when she first got to school, and a little boy made fun of her name immediately, and so she was having a bad day, right? So, was that a true story?
Oh yeah, my name was made fun of when I was growing up. Like, I end up in Chicago at a very diverse school, but like, you know, people couldn't pronounce Ajayi and I think for me, just I even took that experience from a combination of experiences in my life where I will practice with people on my name and they still won't get it right, or they will skip saying my name because they felt like it was too hard. They'll just be like, "Oh, it's you. You know, it's you that I'm talking about." So yeah, no, I made little Luvvie have this encounter because I think it is the everyday type of encounter that a kid might have on her first day of school in a new place. If she has a strange name or a name that the kids hadn't heard, she probably will get made fun of by at least one person. And where sometimes it makes you shrink, I wanted to show what it looks like to not shrink in that. Even though she didn't get the response right first, but she ends up growing from that and hearing apologies. And I thought that was a big deal too.
Right. Not understood the first and second response very well. you know.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Uh-huh.
Now, you spoke about never seeing your name on mugs or keychains growing up. And I just got to, before I finish this question, my youngest daughter is supermodel Cecily Lopez. And she spells her name Sessie. And I wanted to make it easy, I thought, for people to pronounce it. But apparently they call her everything under the book, Cecily, or every kind of thing but her name. And she told me to tell you she can relate, and that to say hello, she can relate and let you know that she's in the same pod. So,
Well, you know, one of the things that is interesting about this book is I really feel like adults are going to love it even more than the kids because we've had more time to spend pronouncing our names and correcting it. So your daughter, I get her because you'll be like, but my name is spelled like it should be said, and people still will complicate it. They will add burden where there isn't any.
yes.
And I think that sometimes is really frustrating. And where do you put it? A lifetime of you being like, yo, I know my name ain't that hard to say. That's a level of, you know, a microaggression that is frustrating to deal with for a lifetime. You know, by the time you're 30, how many times have you corrected somebody on your name? Thousands of times, thousands of moments where you're like, bruh, come on. So that's why I'm also like, yeah, no, this book for me, it feels like a book that allows me to reparent my inner child and get her to feel the affirmation that she might not have heard over the years, you know, like, and that was really important to me. When I even announced this book, I feel like this book got the most reaction out of adults, like most emotional reaction out of adults that any of my 5 books has gotten. You know, when I first announced it, people started pouring in stories of how upset they've been over the years of people messing up their names, how their names have been misspelled or mispronounced at graduation, you know. And so I feel like I wrote all of this book for all of us, to be quite honest. Anybody who's ever felt like, you know, they've had to either correct somebody or had to deal with a moment where they felt like they might have needed to.
How did all this shape your identity and your confidence? Because you're very confident. And that's what
Yeah.
you should be, right?
Oh man, I am confident in spite of those microaggressions. I'm confident in spite of the fact that sometimes they try to make me feel like my name is too big. And I think for me, that confidence comes in understanding that the names that we go by, our identity is sacred. And it's not for anybody to shame or make us feel othered. So, but what happens when you don't feel or hear that early? There's a lot of adults now who are like, yeah, I still go by a name I don't even like simply because I just said, fine, I'll go by this name because nobody could say my name properly. So I wanted to have kids get this message early. I think it's really important for them to kind of be raised with these affirmations so then they don't have to be the adults who have to rediscover that part of themselves. The confidence gap for kids, especially girls, happens at 8, where at the age of 8, something happens in their socialization, in them being at school, where boys become more confident and girls' confidence takes a massive dip. So that's half the reason why I even write these little Troublemaker books, because I hope the confidence gap doesn't happen so much, right? I want girls to see that you deserve to stand up for yourself, that your voice matters, that your name matters, that what matters to you matters in general. So that's why I have little Troublemaker, this dark-skinned Black girl with a fade. She doesn't have long
Yes.
hair. She has a fade. She's confident. She's smart. She's funny. And she will never be humbled. And I hope in them watching these stories and reading these stories and extrapolating and modeling it, they go, oh, I too could get an apology when somebody makes me upset. I too can, make sure somebody atones for something they did to me, or I am still lovable even when I make mistakes. So yeah, I wanted to write that book because I think even us, we need to hear it now too.
We sure do. Is that why it's so important for children, especially Black and immigrant children, to hear their names said with pride and respect?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Immigrant children especially know the struggles of those names. And listen, we deserve to be affirmed. And our names are not as hard. Like if they can say Tchaikovsky, they can say Adenuga. Like if they can say Schwarzenegger, they can say, you know, Baptiste. Like they can
Yes.
say it. People have shown that it's not about the difficulty of the word, it is about who it's attached to. They will
Mhm.
make an effort when they feel like they need to. But here's the thing is we need to stop giving people a get out of getting my name free card. We need to also know that yes, if you have to correct them, please do. It's better for you to correct them and be upset every time you hear them say your name and make your name ugly than like you every time you see it you're like. So I just want us to know that, like, correct people early and often.
Yes, indeed. Make sure you do that. But how can parents help their children defend their names and their cultural identities in a world that often mislabels or mispronounce them, sometimes even on purpose? And we heard that a lot through this last election with Kamala's name.
Kamala.
They refused to say her name correctly. So, what do you have to say about that?
I think for adults we have to model it.
Yeah.
The thing about Kamala is she also made sure she corrected people. Even I remember the moment at the DNC where her two great nieces got on stage and said, here's how you pronounce Kamala. Like it was a moment for them to be like, yo, we're going to take some time because this is important. So I think adults have to model it, because if kids see people mispronouncing your name and you just shrug and you go, I guess, they're also going to say, well, okay, if it happens to me, I guess I just have to let it go. So we have to be models of what we want to see. We have to be also the ones insisting that our names take up space and are said in the way that honor whoever named us, because a lot of us have names that mean something.
Mhm.
So every time we let somebody say it in a way that's not honoring you, you're removing the meaning. So my whole thing is, look, I want you to recognize the meaning because it is there for a reason. Our names are affirmations, they are prayers, they are prophecies, they are, hopes for our lives. They are the things that our parents and grandparents put upon us that might be lineage, holding. So I'm just like, why would I let you mispronounce that?
Right. So, what would you say to those teachers that are listening that get the role at the beginning of the year and just aren't learning names adults who get names wrong? What do you want to say to them?
Listen, I know every name does not seem familiar to you, but I think when you take the time to show somebody that you're making an effort to honor that part of themselves, that very critical part of themselves, you will help heal a wound. So for teachers, I want you to possibly even have the kids themselves say their names for roll call. Put them in alphabetical order and then have them say their names with pride. So then you start learning how to say it. And if you don't know their name, pull them aside and say, hey, I want to practice because I want to make sure I get your name right. You'll be so surprised how much that will blow somebody away because that hasn't happened for them. No one has, the people on the other side of the roll call or customer service has never been like, all right, let me practice your name so I get this right. So just really taking intentional time and effort to show that you care will go a long way with anybody, adults or kids.
Yes, indeed. What was your writing process like for this book?
You know what's funny? For this book, I just sat at my kitchen counter and I wrote.
Okay.
I put myself in a frame of 9-year-old me or 8-year-old me and was just like, how would this have gone? Actually, how did this go the first time? And then what can I infuse in it to make sure it gets closure quickly? But it was easy to write this book. It was easy to write, super easy to write this book.
It's been
I
your
loved
work.
writing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you write from a place of personal experience, you're pulling from your own pain, you're pulling from your own lessons. I find that easier to write because all I have to do is just tap into where I was then. So like with any art, when it is highly personal, I think it flows better. It's more aligned.
Yes, indeed. What do you want people to know about your new book?
Mm. What I want people to know about Little Troublemaker Defends Her Name, um, is that now more than ever, I think we really need to embrace what makes all of us different because we're seeing that attacked in ways that is not productive. Um, and one thing that teachers have said about the first Little Troublemaker book that I actually found as a point of pride was when they introduced the book to their classmates. Um, they said the kids started being more empathetic towards the Arab kid.
Oh,
The
nice.
kids started being more curious and less judgy when kids were different. And I was like, now that's an affirmation of the work because that's ultimately what it comes down to is that we all need to be able to embody who we are truly without feeling othered constantly. So if my books can do that, if this book does that, I would consider it a success.
That is a success. If you can make the world a little kinder, especially today, that's a success.
Especially today.
Indeed.
Especially today.
Oh my gosh. If
Yeah.
little Lovey had this book growing up, how do you think it would have changed the way she saw herself?
Ooh. It would have made me even bolder about insisting that people honored my culture. There was a bit there where when I first came to the US, I had the strong Nigerian accent. I felt very different in that room. And there were times when it kind of made me feel a little bit ashamed because I was like, dang, I don't fit in. It took a couple of years before I realized, it's okay to not fit in. Fitting in is overrated. Just be like your dope self. Like it took me a couple of years. But imagine if I never had to even deal with a couple of years,
Yeah.
right? So I think for just in general, being able to encourage kids to be proud, not ashamed of their differences is a game changer. It changes the way they think about themselves, look at themselves. It changes how they won't be so quick to apologize for the things that are core to them.
Mhm.
And they can move with their head held high just a little bit more. And that's my hope that in them encountering little Lovey, that they are like they're given permission. They receive permission from these books that what makes you different makes you really dope. Like don't be ashamed of it. And if somebody tries to make fun of you about that thing, look, give it to them right back thoughtfully, but do not apologize for the best part of yourself because somebody else is ridiculing it.
Absolutely. I know that can be difficult for kids. And I used to, because of my daughter's situation, I remember having to tell her when she didn't want to stand out on the red carpet. I'm like, the photographers only focus on the people who stand out on the red carpet. You got to do something different. Be different, because she was young in this industry. She grew up in this industry. So, and now, of course, she understands. So I kind of relay that to the other young kids that I deal with and work with and say, hey, you got to stand out, and it's okay. That be you, because that's what people will pay attention to. That's what's going to make you stand out from the whole crowd. So you're giving the best advice about that to kids watching, to the parents watching. But speaking about those parents, what advice would you give to them about raising little troublemakers? The bold, the outspoken, those different kids you just talked about.
Yes. One, fitting in is overrated. Just know that for sure. Everybody who has been known to be exceptional are exceptional because they're very different. So again, in the exceptional is the value, right? In the exceptional, in the difference is your superpower. And for parents of the little troublemakers, because hey, I was a little troublemaker growing up, just when their energy is not being directed in the right way, just redirect them, but affirm them and let them know that, okay, you made a mistake, you did this wrong, but here's what you do next time. You made a mistake, not you are a mistake. Is really important, because a lot of times people get their confidence taken out of them, abused out of them, insulted out of them, bullied out of them. And for parents of little troublemakers, your job is to just help them redirect their energy in thoughtful ways, but don't snuff their energy out, right? Their passion, their fierceness, their questions and curiosity. That's important, that as you correct them, because again, they will make mistakes constantly, probably. You do not want to take and remove the best part of themselves, because they go, oh, I keep doing this thing wrong, so I'll just get quiet. When that happens, you're removing their core personality, and then they end up being the adults who have to now go back and get that thing back. So just protect their heart fiercely, because those big hearts will get them in big trouble. That's little Luvvie all day. In every book, her big heart gets her in big trouble, but then she learns she made the mistake. She grows from the mistake. She feels great afterwards, does not feel less loved afterwards. She will always feel like, okay, I now know better and I am still loved. And I think that's what parents really need to double down on and insist on and protect fiercely.
Yes, yes, I agree. And where can people buy your Little Troublemaker books, especially the Defends Her Name book, and follow you on social media to keep up with your work?
Yes. So you can find out all the details about Little Troublemaker Defends Her Name at littletroublemakerbook.com. If you pre-order some copies, you can actually also download activity sheets for your babies. So we have word search, we have a coloring sheet, we have a family tree thing for you to fill out, because also a lot of times our names are tied to our great grandparents. So there's different things for them to do to keep them busy. And one of the things that we are doing is, my goal for this book is to get this book into the hands of 10,000 kids in classrooms around the country before the end of the year. So we are doing a sponsorship train where we are matching educators with people who are willing to cover costs for their classrooms. And we're sending books to those educators so they don't incur further costs. And the last Little Troublemaker Little Troublemaker Makes a Mess, we actually end up sending 5,400 books across 30 states. Wow. And through our sponsorship train, a lot of kids were able to actually start their libraries. It was the first book that they could take home and keep home and not have to bring back. So that's meaningful. So for me, with this book, that is my measure of success, not whether it hits the Times list or not. It is, are we able to get this message to 10,000 kids in classrooms all over the country? So I invite anybody who would love to join our sponsorship train. That is at sponsorlittletroublemaker.com. But yeah, I'm all over social media at Luvvie. Luvvie is my username across all platforms. I'm super easy to find, y'all. And I'm excited to keep doing this work, whether it's writing kids' books. The next one is coming out next year in May also. Or, just continuing to show up, encourage, showing that I'm not fearless. I just happen to not let the fear make me do less. So that drives me every day.
Boom. And I did see your TED Talk, so I know where you're coming from. When you jumped out
Come
that plane, I was
on.
like, I usually do the same thing, but I was like, I draw the line there. So you're braver than me, girl. You're braver than me. Oh my
Girl.
gosh.
That was 10 years ago, by the way. I jumped out of
10
a plane
years
10
ago.
years ago.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Isn't
I
it
want to
wild?
thank you, Luvvie, because you're just a pleasure and a beam of light. So thank you for coming on my show. I really love having you here.
Thank you for having me. I don't take it for granted when people invite me to take up space on platforms that they control and own. And thank you for trusting me, for being here, and for wanting to talk about this work that I think is so important. I think platforms like yours are critical for authors and for people who are just trying to get these babies the great messages. So thank you for having me.
And a big shout out to all of you watching the replay of this special edition of BACKtalk by Successful Black Parenting Magazine. Be sure you follow us on social media. Click on everything, follows, likes, ads. Until next time, I wish you all the best and much success. Take care, and thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to BACKtalk by Successful Black Parenting Magazine. We'll see you soon.
All right.